So much for MAGA, huh? I guess maybe different people have different definitions of what really makes America great. Personally, I think it's the men and women in uniform that sacrifice every day, exhausted, tired, overworked, yes, but do their jobs and do them well under incredibly stressful conditions. But what is really going on? What's really going on is the U.S. government has a secret it doesn't want you to know about, and it's willing to sacrifice the lives and the integrity and the honor of 2 sailors. It is just absolutely sickening. Apparently we have time to pardon Jack Johnson, the boxer that died God knows how many years ago, because Sylvester Stallone asked, Hollywood gets its way, but these guys get to burn. Officer accused of negligence in Fitzgerald collision will face special court-martial next week as part of a likely plea deal. Well, let's look at the details of that plea deal, won't we? You're going to love this. A junior officer accused of negligence in the fatal collision of USS Fitzgerald last summer will face a special court-martial next week on charges of dereliction of duty in a trial at Washington Navy Yard, the Navy announced this week. Based on the circumstances of the case, the trial is part of a likely plea deal that would involve the officer becoming a prosecution witness in courts-martial stemming from the same collision, 2 military defense lawyers told USNI. Really? Well, I wonder who they're going to be testifying against. I mean, who are they going to try to take down here? I mean, surely it wouldn't be the person who was asleep, would it? Well, look at this. One military defense attorney told USNI News that the trial is most likely going to formalize a plea deal with government prosecutors that will come with an obligation to testify against Commander Bryce Benson during his court-martial, allegedly asleep in his quarters, injured to the point of going into shock, having to be airlifted out of the vessel. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to charge him, and we're going to strong-arm a couple of butter bars into testifying against him. Really? I never want to hear one more word. I don't want to hear one more word from this government about how they honor the military or how they appreciate the sacrifice. If this shit flies, if this shit goes down, nope. Sorry, not buying it anymore. When you can take your own guys, turn them against each other, like this, they're probably rolling this person up as a witness. Rob Butch Bracknell, a former Marine and military lawyer, told USNI News on Tuesday, if this person was in a position to give evidence to give against the CO, then the plea deal will come with an offer of testimonial immunity and an order to testify. It's perfectly normal. Okay, well, I guess that's the definition of normal now. That's the new normal. People that are asleep aboard vessels are now criminally responsible for the death that occurs while they're asleep. I wonder if they're going to testify against the DCA, because she was asleep in her rack too, and she didn't sound the GQ alarm for 14 minutes. So apparently it was her duty as well to know in her sleep that she should have been aware that there was a ship that was allegedly going to penetrate the hull with a bulbous bow, and I'm sorry. These guys work so hard to protect us. They work so hard to do the very best they can. And this is what they get. Government lawyers turning officer against officer, shipmate against shipmate. Yeah, you're not going to see this in the news, are you? You're not going to see this at the front page. In case anybody wants to know what I'm talking about here. Damage control response. This is the supplemental report that came out between the time of the Fitzgerald and the McCain, before the final report came out. And we've been here before. 49, at the time of the collision, the DCA, damage control assistant, was asleep in her rack. She woke up when she felt the ship lurch She didn't wake up when the GQ alarm was sounded. No, she woke up when she felt the ship lurch. The collision alarm then sounded for what we know to be 2 seconds from this report. And the DCA quickly dressed and proceeded to Central Control Station. From there, she directed damage control and then sounded GQ. So she had the time to get up and get dressed and get knocked out of her rack, and nobody sounded GQ. And of course, everybody who wants to take issue with the channel says, well, that's because 1MC wasn't working. It went out initially. Really? That's interesting. Because you go down here to point 52, it says, when the 1MC stopped working, the DCA then continued to communicate with the damage control parties on net 80, meaning that 14 minutes later, when GQ was sounded, and in case anybody wants to take issue with that time frame, let me get down here to it. I should have brought it up. They delineate all of this. 143, all power forward lost, general quarter set. That sounds like the exact, if the collision is 130 and the DCA is in her rack, and they've said the DCA is the one that sounded general quarters, 13 minutes sounds like about the right amount of time. But no general quarters. No general quarters until 13 minutes later, and 1MC goes down 2:23. So, tell me again. I mean, at this point, after having done 100 videos about this, it's literally almost from memory now. About this bullshit story about somehow an accident that just magically happens in the middle of the night. I'll find the regular report here. Another point where they argue themselves. The officer of the deck, the person responsible for the safe navigation of the ship, exhibited poor seamanship by failing to maneuver as required, failing to sound the danger signal, and failing to attempt to contact Crystal on bridge-to-bridge radio. In addition, the officer of the deck did not call the commanding officer as appropriate and prescribed by Navy procedures to allow him to exercise more senior oversight and judgment of the situation. The remainder of the watch team, which would more than likely include this particular sailor that's getting rolled up, failed to provide situational awareness and input to the officer of the deck regarding the situation. Really? So they say that in the report. Sorry, one second. They say that in the report, but when we look at the chart that they give us of the time, pardon my having to scroll here, I just think this is very important so that when you watch these guys have their lives ruined by the government, you'll know exactly why. Here it says again, key supervisors in the Combat Information Center failed to comprehend the complexity of the operating environment and the number of commercial vessels in the area. And they're talking about how the commander just didn't have the information. Timeline of events. One second. Okay. 1:10 in the morning. Fitzgerald continued on course 190, speed 20 knots. Crystal was ahead on Fitzgerald's starboard side, distance of 11 nautical miles. 1:10, same time. They're trying to get a radar track on the Crystal. 1:17, officer of the deck plotted a radar track, thought to be the Crystal. Calculated the Crystal to be passing 1,500 yards from Fitzgerald on the right. 1:20, the watchstander responsible for immediate support to the officer of the deck, the junior officer of the deck, reported sighting visually Crystal, and noted that Crystal's course would cross Fitzgerald's track. The officer of the deck continued to think Crystal would pass 1,500 yards. Once again, 1:22, junior officer of the deck sighted Crystal again and made recommendation to slow. So, how is this junior officer of the deck not giving input? How is he not attempting to make him aware of the situation? And remember, one of these guys is the one they're going to roll up against the dude who was asleep. And then we have, of course, the Rapidly getting closer, considered a turn to 240 true. And then this just all goes off the rails into fantasy land. So point being, this is what they're going to do. Because they know they have the media on their side. They're going to take advantage of the media narrative. And they're going to try to blame Obama. And it was the Obama Navy. And they just Obama this and Obama that. That's what they're going to try to do again. You mark my words. We're going to hear it again. When this gets into the, consciousness, these trials of the MSM, that's what's going to come out of the mouth of mainstream radio again. I'm calling it now. And it's the most sickening, disgusting things. If you really want to do something out there to make a difference, write your congressmen. Write your senators. Don't let this stand. Like, share, subscribe.